Good morning to you all. The time now is 7:45 a.m. in the morning, and we are joining you for day two of District Attorney of Fulton County, Georgia's Fani Willis's coverage here as she will take the stand again after allegations of her having a relationship with a fellow coworker that has now been confirmed. But now, what we're really here for today is to see if those relationships have affected the case or will affect the case, as she assigned Nathan Wade, the top prosecutor in this case, the special prosecutor in this case, one of the top spots, as I was just saying, the top prosecutor. So let's go into kind of why we're here, how we got here. So Donald Trump was indicted this summer, a little while ago. Donald Trump and 19 co-defendants, as you can see there on your screen, and that they all had to get mugshots because this was a state case. And now we're here today where we kind of talk about not just that, but then um, I believe it was one of his co-defendants, Trump's co-defendants, kind of figured out that something was going on and began to take on a motion saying that, like she should be removed as this, has affected the case. And that is what uh, they're trying to prove in this case. Trump's lawyers and co-defendants, they're trying to prove in this case that their relationship has affected today or will affect. So Fani Willis took the stand, as well as Nathan Wade, two people, direct sources in this case here. So that happened yesterday. Um, Here in day two, we can expect 3 to 4 more um, witnesses here, including the final and finishing up of Nathan Wade's, I'm sorry, Fani Willis's testimony, and then we can expect a few more witnesses. So she is going to come up first to the stand. So we'll hear more from Fani Willis. Um, Now I want to kind of talk about what would happen if she were to be disqualified from this case. And I didn't specify earlier what case this was, but this was an indictment that her and her team released against Trump and his 19 co-defendants that claimed them of election interference. So now that I have the story in front of me from the New York Times here that says, what happens if Fani Willis is disqualified from the Trump case? And I kind of want to go through and read some of the information that is in this story. So first here, the stakes are high, and I'm gonna read it like I have before when I'm live reading stuff, just so it doesn't look like I'm reading nothing. I'm just staring down at my papers or something of that nature. So let me read this now. The stakes are high as a judge in Atlanta weighs whether the Fulton County District Attorney Fani T. Willis should be disqualified from leading the prosecution of former President Donald J. Trump on election interference charges. If Judge Scott McAfee, which he is the main judge in this case. He's been the judge in this case for a little while. He's been the judge ruling everything for Trump, including a most 19 co-defendants in this courtroom. But if Judge Scott McAfee determines that Miss Willis has a conflict of interest because of her romantic relationship with the prosecutor she hired to manage the case, and that it merits disqualification, his decision would, by extension, disqualify her entire office. The case would then be reassigned to another Georgia prosecutor who would have the ability to continue with the case exactly as it is, make major changes, such as adding or dropping charges or defendants, or even to drop the case altogether. The decision to drop the case would end the prosecution of Mr. Trump and his allies for their actions in Georgia after the 2020 election, when the former president sought to overturn his loss in the state. I think that second paragraph right there in the story really points out something. I mean, I just have to say, I mean, that's pretty incredible that, according to the New York Times, it would be assigned to another Georgia prosecutor. I want to read this off to you guys again, who would have the ability to make major changes, such as adding or dropping charges or defendants, or to even drop the case altogether. Now, the decision to drop the case would end the prosecution of Mr. Trump and his allies for their actions in Georgia after the 2020 election. So I think that's why this case is so much bigger than I think it seems, is simply because this could mean that Donald Trump loses a whole entire indictment and his 19 co-defendants do. So you have to think, if you think from the headspace of the defendants in this case, Trump, I mean, I see where they're coming from in a way. I mean, if you have the opportunity to get your cases dropped, you're going to take it. So that's why we're taking this opportunity. And I'm sure they probably believe that, what you do is unethical. And we have to think from that perspective also, even though we also can think from the plaintiff side of, we're innocent in a way. So we are going to let me look something up really quickly as we kind of have a moment here. And we have about 8 minutes here until we get some feet into that courtroom. So as we kind of wait for that, let me look something up very quickly. Apologies here. I just need to look something up. Okay. So I think that this co-defendant here, I have that co-defendant for anyone wondering who that is here. And let me find him on this paper so I can point him out on that on this 19. Let me see if I can find him. Maybe here. I'm not sure if he's on that, but he's one of the 19 co-defendants. But I think he is the one that is. It says Mitch Skandalakis. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that right. I probably am not. That is a long last name here. I'm probably saying that very wrong. I'll have to look at the pronunciation once we get into the courtroom here, and I can stop bringing you guys cover. Not stop bringing you guys cover, but I can take a pause here. But it says he's an American lawyer and former Republican Party politician from Georgia who rose to national prominence in the early 1990s. So I wonder if maybe he is. I'm not sure here. I'm not sure. Sorry, guys. I'm not sure what I'm even talking about at this point, or what I'm reading off to you guys, because very confused at this point. All right. The time now is 7:54. I'm waiting to see if we do maybe get some fee. Give me a moment. Outside the courthouse. If we do, I'll go to that. Okay, we do not have fee just yet. 5 minutes here until we get some feed, though. And guys, I'm kind of changing, editing things as we're speaking here, getting ready for this case here. So, getting ready because we have a lot to expect today in this case. So, as we at this point are waiting for a look inside the courtroom here. I do have some highlights I would like to roll of yesterday. Now, yesterday's testimony was long from Nathan Wade. there was a lot of testimony yesterday. I think 4 witnesses in this case testified, and it was kind of a lot, but I want to show you guys some of that testimony. So here is just a little look at some of the highlights from that. And this is not all the highlights, by the way, guys. It'd be 40 minutes long. We'd just be sitting here. All right, take a look.
The charges that are on your card, she gave you cash for?
She did. Traveling with her is a task. You can probably imagine the attention that happens. So, for safety reasons, she would limit her transactions.
So you had a chance to see them interact together on a personal level?
Yes.
And so from everything that you saw, heard, witnessed, it's your understanding that they were in a romantic relationship beginning in 2019?
Yes.
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her?
No doubt.
Okay. And that's based on your personal observations and speaking with them and seeing them together and things like that?
Yes.
I also want to take the lead here.
We'll draft the motion to quash Ms. Willis based on the. I'm ready to go.
Okay, so the position of the district attorney at this point is that she's no longer contesting the subpoena. Ms. Merchant has called her as the next witness.
I would ask, I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant. 3 filings. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
2020. Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you resided?
He has never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
In 2020, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay. I don't understand. You're going to give me that. In 2020, I lived in South Fulton.
Okay.
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
All right.
And at my home in South Fulton, he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, I'm going to have to caution you. That's going to be my first time I have to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike your testimony.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
No, look. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was, do you have any problem?
I object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
And I'm not, no, I'm not dealing with privilege. What we had offered to put them in camera for the court to review, and I just want to know if she has any
That's
problem.
not something you deal with a witness.
Okay, you have to file as part of your job something called an income and financial disclosure report, correct?
That's correct.
And that was just a few highlights there. You really did see, I mean, Fani Willis began to get very heated in this courtroom. I mean, it was intense. She came in, and I wonder if we can, I know I have a clip of it, and I know I can play it again here for you guys. Give me a moment, let me pull this up here. But she came into the courtroom, and her team and the co-defendants and defendants team were arguing at each other of why she needed to testify. And her team was saying she didn't. And then she just walked up to the witness stand and began testifying. So that was something She just said, "I'm going," and went. I wonder if we can pull that back up again. It's somewhere in here. Apologies here. Give me just a moment. Here we go. Take a look on your screen now. I'll kind of bring you guys through this.
And certainly,
So
he's changing. She files her financial
at this point, they are
saying,
talking about
ready
her.
to go over all of this and to explain exactly what happened. So we was asked the court.
There you go. You can hear kind of lawyers in the background saying that she needed to get to the
Yes.
stand. Let me turn this way down here for you guys. Saying that she needed to get to the stand.
Just a moment, Ms. Willis. So, Ms. Cross, I don't know if you want to speak with Ms. Willis now. It's sounding like maybe they're withdrawing the objection to the motion,
Yep. Then she basically says that she.
or does Ms. Willis want to take the lead here?
We'll draft the motion to quash Ms. Willis based on the. I'm ready to go.
Okay, so.
And that's when you. I don't know if that's actually what she said, but you kind of hear a mumbled, "I'm going to go."
Ms. Merchant is
And
next witness.
yep, there we go. Then she walks to the stand, and we have her here. I want to go directly to Fani Willis here, asking for 3 papers.
I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant. 3 filings.
And at this point, the court ends up having to break for 5 minutes
Does the court have the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant?
When you say the filing.
as the
The pleadings, yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
it's pretty interesting to watch this there, but she's asking there for the 3 files there from Ms. Merchant about the she was just asking for a few court documents in this case, and we should be getting a live feed any moment now. Give just a moment here. We should be having a live feed like any second now. Apologies for that background noise. I'm trying to get you guys a live feed in that courtroom. Oh, here we go. Okay, we do have some courtroom feed here. Give me just a moment here, and we'll bring that to you. Okay, and here we go.
And Mr. Floyd has decided what exactly?
That we are taking you now live in the courtroom as they begin day 2 of the Fani Willis motions to remove her from the election interference case against
It's a deliberate choice for Mr. Morrison not to be present this morning.
We will have that. Our coverage begins right now.
Otherwise, I think we can call that a voluntary withdrawal.
Okay, I agree, and I haven't heard anything else from Mr. Morrison or any other counsel. Is there anything we need to take up before resuming testimony here? Let me start with the state.
I'm sorry, thank you, Your Honor. Yesterday, the state had asked that Ms. Yurdi be, her subpoena be held in case we needed to recall. I let her attorney know last night after speaking to me, we don't intend to recall her, and as far as the state's concerned, I know she'd already been released from the subpoena from the other side, so there was no reason for her to be released today from the state.
All right, Ms. Merchant, can we excuse Ms. Yurdi?
I talked to her attorney last night, and I said, hey, we had a different conversation, so I think she's still on standby.
So your position has changed since yesterday?
Well, based on the state's representation that they may have rebuttal evidence, but they didn't give us that, so I don't know what that is. So in rebuttal, if they present something in rebuttal that I need to call her to talk about, then I will.
All right, we'll address it as it comes up. What else? Anything else, Ms. Cross?
Not from the state, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Merchant?
I know that we're still in the middle of Ms. Willis, but we need to address some of the things that were said yesterday in court in regards to Mr. Bradley, privilege, things like that. Do you want to do that now, or would you rather do that before Mr. Bradley?
When you say address them, what do you mean?
Well, there's a couple different issues, but we've got the privilege issue is one of them. But I also, what I did was I drafted all my questions, and I thought I could give those to the court, opposing counsel, everyone to review them. discuss. There were some allegations made. I had a transcript made of the proceeding yesterday. Some specific allegations that I think I should have an opportunity to refute. Specifically that I had egregiously misrepresented, that things that I had said were patently false, and that all of that information came from Mr. Abadi speaking with Mr. Chopra. I spoke with Mr. Chopra. We talked to him in the car on the way here on speakerphone, Mr. Merchant and I, and he said that he didn't tell Mr. Abadi any of that information, doesn't know where Mr. Abadi got it from. Mr. Abadi says that he did, and so, you know.
If there's any clearing of the air that needs to happen, and if we need to get to that, I think the right time would be once we've actually seen all the evidence that comes out. So.
Thank you. I just wanted to let the board know. Thank you.
And in terms of the privilege issue, if you're planning to recall Mr. Bradley, and you've actually typed out some specific questions, then yes, I think that would be helpful and might allow things to proceed a little more efficiently through his testimony. So, to the extent you've got those typed out and are willing to provide those to counsel for Mr. Bradley and the state, I'd encourage you to do that. And before we call him, we can get into that as well.
Okay, great, thank you. And I have a copy for the court. I have one copy for Mr. Evans. I know Mr. Abadi was objecting to privilege yesterday, but I think it's actually Mr. Evans that needs to.
Was Mr. Evans? Mr. Evans is here. Okay. All right. Anything else from any counsel?
Vote the rule, make sure it's still in.
Rule is still in place. All right. Not seeing anything else. If we could bring back in Ms. Willis.
Actually, Your Honor, the state has no further questions for Ms. Willis, so
All right.
no need to.
Okay, Ms. Merchant. Next witness.
I think we're about to hit the privilege issue.
We are about to hit the privilege.
There we are. Okay. Then do you need counsel need a moment to take a look at her questions?
Yes. So I've got a copy. Oh, I guess Mr. Evans.
And then do we have Mr. Bradley somewhere in the whereabouts nearby?
Mr. Chopra. I informed Mr. Chopra that he's still under subpoena.
Well, him and his client.
Yes. I'm also with Mr. Bradley. He's actually not here today.
We need you to identify yourself for the record, sir.
Main man Ward. He's not here at this moment. He has a doctor's appointment that he's currently in as we speak. And his representation is on the way here as well. I'd love to be able to get one of you with it.
Do you have a copy of that? I just want Mr. Evans.
Do you have a time estimate of when he's supposed to be here?
I have one copy of the questions.
Where's the doctor in relation to here?
Yes, at the very earliest, it would be either be free about 10 o'clock, 10 to 10:30.
All right, he's currently driving here as we speak.
He's at the actual doctor's office as we speak.
Okay. And
I think the council was informed of that last night that he would not be here until at the earliest 10:30.
all right.
I wasn't until 10 or 10:30, but.
Sure. Ms. Merchant, other than Mr. Bradley, did you have any other witnesses?
Not that I can call before Mr.
But I do think we can take up some of the privilege.
Sure. No, I think we can use this time to do that. So why don't y'all take a moment to look at the questions and then let me know when you're ready to proceed.
My part of it doesn't have to do with the question. I understood yesterday. I know these gentlemen are looking at the same time, so you want me to wait until they've had a chance?
Well, I think you're about to maybe make a legal qualification here, so why don't we hear what you got?
Yesterday, it sounded as if the witness was going to decline to answer any questions at all in relation to communications or observations or anything, be it independent source or otherwise, that took place during the time of the alleged attorney-client privilege relationship, which is 2015, I think, until the present. I understood that as referencing not simply attorney-client privilege communications, but what we commonly refer to under 1.6 as confidences and secrets, which are not covered by the attorney-client and are not barred from testimony or evidence in a courtroom. But it sounded as if the court was going to have to order Mr. Bradley to testify, and then Mr. Bradley will have to take a position of whether he's going to follow follow the court's order, heed the court's order, or whether he's not. If he does, then we'll be able to get into hopefully the questions that Ms. Merchant has prepared on Mr. Roman's behalf. If he says, I'm not going to comply, then theoretically we're in a position in which the court will have to hold him in contempt. And then, at that point, my guess would be that somebody would say, I would like him to have the contempt stayed while I take it up on appeal. So I'm just trying to play through where we're going to be. Because if we're going to do that, we might as well know this before we start putting him on the stand.
I think that's a good thing to flag now, and I agree that yesterday during the hearing there was some intermingling of 1.6 and attorney-client privilege, and now having had the time to kind of parse through that, and it does seem that there is a distinction between the two. One is not covered by the evidentiary privilege. And
Okay, and as we kind of listen in there, day 2 has begun. They're going to be talking attorney-client privilege here as we're here. Reviewing some questions that they have going on there, so we're going to stick with that. We're going to listen into that. But right now, something else we have learned is that Fani Willis will no longer testify.
That would be the order of this court.
And let me write this in here.
So as you're reviewing those questions, we'll keep that in mind, and I'll be interested to hear your response.
Give me just a
We
moment.
should clarify before we take a break to look at the questions. Do you have a copy for me?
Yes, I do. I have the questions, Judge, and I also have
Sorry guys, just typing in one of those lower thirds that you see pop up on the bottom of your screen. As the state has no further questions from Fani Willis, meaning that she will not testify again today, or if she does, it would be later at a later time. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see her testify again, then call her back up to the stand. But it appears they're going to be reviewing the questions now, meaning I think we will have a break taken. Let's see here, the listening kind of here.
All right, and counsel for Mr. Bradley, I'm sorry, can I get your name one more time? I didn't write it down. Mr. Ward? Okay. All right, Mr. Ward, if we could get some regular updates of where he is and how he is progressing towards the courtroom. And then when everyone has had a chance to read these questions in the interim, let me know and we can take this up. Mr.
There you go. So that is Mr. Ward, that person that kind of walked up and is representing him as the.
Okay. Is someone
Well,
joining us?
I don't want that to be too loud, too loud enough where I can hear it here. So I am also listening to it. So.
For Mr. Floyd. All right, thank you, Mr. Kucherov.
They're going to be reviewing questions, and you can see Ms. Merchant approaching this cross there.
Any announcement in terms of Mr. Floyd's presence this afternoon, or excuse me, today?
So Mr. Floyd is who is going to be testifying, according to my knowledge, and
I'm sorry, Your Honor, I don't. Did you ask a question?
Yes, sir. So Mr. Floyd joined us yesterday, but I do not see him here today. Do you have an announcement about his presence for today's hearing?
Sorry, guys, I'm just kind of listening in here.
All right.
Who would waive his presence?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kucherov. All right. We'll be in recess.
Okay. So right now we are awaiting here. They're going to be reviewing some questions, and I don't know when they're going to do that. If they're doing that right now here, they're kind of reviewing some questions, and you can see some other people in the background there. There's so many people involved in this. We could talk to people, guys. I know big ones. We have Craig Gillen, who was Massey, obviously, Steve Sado, Ashley Merchant, Fani, Nathan, Fani Willis, Nathan Wade there. So now they're reviewing these questions here, these new questions here in this case. Against attorney-client privilege, according to my knowledge. I think kind of reviewing some questions, and you can hear the courtroom kind of laughing it up, talking it up as everyone is reviewing some new questions here. So I'm sure we will see some more information. Oh, and we did just lose that feed. I don't know how long this is going to take. It's going to be interesting to watch this here. Give me just a moment to get a new feed here. I'm not sure why our feed ended. Give me, again, just a moment here. This is what it looks like to do news. Random, your feed just ends. Oh, midday. Okay. Think we have been here. Oh, apologies for that. Let me turn that audio off. Okay. Now we should have our feedback. All right. So now as you take a look on your screen there, the courthouse is back in Atlanta there. They're reviewing some questions at this current moment, and that is why they're having to take a break. I also want to mention something here while we're on the kind of topic of Trump here. March 20, give me just a minute. Trump has a trial upcoming on March 25th to have to do with the hush money case to Stormy Daniels, to the adult video star there. So I know that was yesterday. He was in court yesterday for that. Let me read this off. Let me just read this New York Times post really quickly. This is his first trial at this point that I know that has a scheduled date. A lot of his other trials are either hitting bumps, just like this trial right here on the election interference. It's really hit a big bump. So we're kind of just waiting here to see what occurs next. I don't know how long this is going to take here. For anyone, we can talk day one again here. Day one, main topics focused on, or some of the, give me a moment here. Some of the topics that were talked about were a lot of travels and when that relationship actually ended between the two. And then we had, and I don't know if I can pull up just the individual clip. I can see if I can find it. Give me a moment. I'm going to attempt to find this clip here for you guys. But it's closer to the beginning. I know that. Well, this is the wrong clip anyways. Give me just a moment. So we are awaiting them. They're reviewing some questions, and we're going to come back. Let me get the full highlights video, and we will play the full court highlights of yesterday. These aren't the actual full, as in the whole entire time. It's just going to be some key moments in there. 'Cause if it was full, it'd be about 40 minutes, and we don't have that for our airtime. So take a look now.
The charges that are on your card, she gave you cash for?
She did. Traveling with her is a task. You can probably imagine the tension that happens. So, for safety reasons, she would limit her transactions.
So you had a chance to see them interact together on a personal level?
Yes.
And so from everything that you saw, heard, witnessed, it's your understanding that they were in a romantic relationship beginning in 2019?
Yes.
You have no doubt that their romantic relationship was in effect from 2019 until the last time you spoke with her?
No doubt.
Okay. And that's based on your personal observations and speaking with them and seeing them together and things like that?
Yes.
Who else want to take the lead here?
We'll draw the motion to quash Ms. Willis based on the.
Okay, so the position of the district attorney at this point is that she's no longer contesting the subpoena. Ms. Merchant has called her as the next witness.
asked, I need 3 documents in front of me, and they're the 3 filings of Ms. Merchant. 3 filings. It's interesting that we're here about this money. Mr. Wade is used to women that, as he told me one time, the only thing a woman can do for him is make him a sandwich. We would have brutal arguments about the fact that I am your equal. I don't need anything from a man. A man is not a plan. A man is a companion. And so there was tension always in our relationship, which is why I would give him his money back. I don't need anybody to foot my bills. The only man who's ever foot my bills completely is my daddy.
2020. Did Mr. Wade ever visit you at a place that you
He
resided?
has never been to my home in South Fulton. 2020 was before I knew that a phone call was going to be made and I was going to have to abandon my home. As a result thereof, he never visited, lived at, came to, or has seen South Fulton.
You qualified that with your home in South Fulton.
That's where I lived in 2020.
In 2020, did he ever visit you at a place that you resided?
Okay. I don't understand. You have to give me that. In 2020, I lived in South Fulton.
Okay.
That's the only place I lived in South Fulton. That's before I had to abandon my home, Judge.
All right.
And at my home in
we're
South
gonna clarify
Fulton,
this. We'll break it down.
he never came there, okay? So if you don't come someplace, you can't live there.
Ms. Willis, I'm going to have to caution you. That's going to be my first time out to caution you. We have to listen to the questions as asked. And if this happens again and again, I'm going to have no choice but to strike you down.
So your office objected to us getting Delta records for flights that you may have taken with Mr. Wade.
And, well, no, look. I object to you getting records. You've been intrusive into people's personal lives. You're confused. You think I'm on trial. These people are on trial for trying to steal an election in 2020. I'm not on trial, no matter how hard you try to put me on trial.
So my question was, do you have any problem?
I object to getting any personal records of mine.
We're not dealing with privilege through a witness.
And I'm not, no, I'm not dealing with privilege. What we had offered to put them in camera for the court to review, and I just want to know if she has any
That's not
problem.
something you deal with a witness.
Okay, and that was the feed there coming, or that was some of the highlights yesterday. That's not all the highlights. I mean, I pointed out something before we kind of went into this. I pointed out something that was pretty interesting about this, and that was to the fact that it was interesting to see how she came in hot, as I heard one reporter explain, and she came in hot. I mean, she came in, she was like, I need 3 documents. I pointed that out in our before coverage. It appears they have begun to review those questions. So I'm trying still kind of to decide what I want to do here. So I think what we'll do is give me a moment. And for anyone just joining us, what has just happened is they are reviewing some questions in the back room now. So as we kind of wait for that, I'm not sure if we even have audio from there anymore. Doesn't appear we do. But what is happening right now is we're just kind of awaiting here them to get out of reviewing questions over some of the things that happened yesterday on attorney-client privilege here. So there's also going to be another witness today, but he will come later. There is a person there that is representing him. They said the latest time they would be there is 10:30, which would be 9:30 our time. The current time is 8:24 here in Central, 9:24 on the East Coast, where they are. They're in Atlanta. So I assume that we will have more coverage coming up later. But what we are going to do right now is I'm just going to leave you guys with this quick graphic right here, and we're going to leave you on the courthouse, and we will return just before they come back or during that time that they come back. But you are watching Brooklyn News Live. For anyone just joining us and is wondering what is going on right now, well, the court and co-defendants and defendants' lawyers are currently reviewing some different documents in the back room, including the judge. At this point, we are just waiting for that. I think it has to do with client attorney privilege, according to my knowledge. We may have to go back on that just to kind of watch here. You see Ashley Merchant just walked past. I'm not sure where she's going. There she is. That's Ashley Merchant right there. She is an attorney for one of Trump's co-defendants there. So we are kind of just waiting for to see any action happening. But as we wait, I don't want to talk for 2 hours, depending on how long this could, happen. So we are going to kind of just watch the courthouse, and we'll join you back if anything more happens. I just wanted to give everyone a quick update on what is going on right now. All right. Thanks everyone for joining me. That's just one thing I want to say. I am Jackson Mitchell with Brookland News here in Brookland, Arkansas, and am covering this event at the Atlanta courthouse today. But just something to note here is that um, what is going on right now and why we're having to take kind of a pause in our coverage is simply because the attorneys and including the judge have went to review some things, and we'll be back very soon. So we have had to take a break in our coverage, but we are still going to bring you that Atlanta courthouse shot, of course. We are just awaiting them to return back. It's unknown how long it will take at this time. It's taken 20-30 minutes, I think. Actually, maybe even a little less than that now. We'll continue bringing you updates when they begin to come out, though. You're watching Brookland News Live, and our coverage will continue when they all return. If I can find that lower third, I was going to make this smooth. There we go. All right. Our coverage will return very soon. Guys, I know I was just talking to you guys, but just a new information really quickly just to pass along to anybody watching here. Um, they have taken a pause until Nathan, I'm sorry, wrong name there, Terrence Bradley shows up. If you remember, somebody representing him said that he was at a doctor's appointment and at the earliest time could show up at around 10:30. Now, this from the New York Times, so I'm just going to read off quote by quote. Quote, in his absence, the judge is hearing arguments about how much, if anything, Bradley can say, given attorney-client privilege issues. Ashley Merchant, one of those defense lawyers that we've seen multiple times now, who's really big in this case here, says that Bradley can help prove that the romantic relationship preceded Wade's hiring by the district attorney's office. So at this point, we're waiting to hear from that, but our coverage will continue once he arrives. All right, everyone, if you are wondering exactly what is happening right now, they are awaiting. If you're wondering, where is everyone? Why are we just looking at an empty room? Well, they are waiting on Terrence Bradley, who a representative said he was at a doctor's appointment to arrive at the courthouse for his testimony. They said the earliest was 10:30, which would be 9:30 here in Central Standard Time, or here in Brooklyn, I should say. So they are in recess, and according to what they were saying, is while they're in recess, they were discussing what lawyers refer to as Rule 1.6, which I pulled that up just now, and it's referring to the confidentiality of client attorney information there. So that is what's happening right now, and we are waiting on Terrence Bradley, who is a witness that apparently, I should say, can say that the whole reason that Nathan Wade was hired was for their relationship, or they were hired because of their relationship. He was hired because of his relationship there. So that is currently what we are waiting on right now. It's weird to think that we have already been live for an hour and 25 minutes covering this topic here, but we have, and we will continue. So that is why we have just been leaving you on a courtroom shot. I do actually, while we're here, I'm going to change something because we are experiencing some technical difficulties with our courtroom shot. I'm sure everyone has noticed that it is constantly loading. So give me a moment here to get that pulled back up as we are watching day 2 here in the courtroom. Maybe. Apologies. Apologies about that. All right. Was not in the script, you could say. Was not what I was expecting to happen. Okay. Now here we go. We have a courtroom shot coming up here, and sorry, I didn't mean to put a voice of Jackson Mitchell, but there you go. So there we go. Now we have a view of the courtroom, and hopefully it's not as laggy. Just had to change video feed there from a different source. All right. So right now we are going to return with you in just a moment. Here from Brookland, Arkansas, but there in Atlanta is where that courthouse is, where day 2 motions to remove Fani Willis from the Trump interference case as we wait for another witness to come up in this case. But I'm Jackson Mitchell, and our coverage will continue. Thanks everyone for continuing to kind of join and stay with me in this time. There has been a lot going on, and I just want to recap what is happening right now. So, apologies here. So right now, we are waiting for Terrence Bradley, who a representative said he is at a doctor's appointment, and the earliest time that he would arrive was at 9:30. It is now 9:43. We don't know how long it's going to take here, but we're going to stand by and keep waiting for him here. But right now, the court is discussing, I think it was Rule 1.6 in a back room that basically is about confidentiality between the lawyer and or the attorney-client confidentiality. And there's Cross and another lawyer there. I think we're kind of just waiting here. Terrence Bradley is going to be a witness. Give me just a moment. Is going to be a witness for Merchant, who is said to going to be testifying how their relationship is kind of why he got the job, and that type of thing. So that is what we are waiting on right now. We've been live for 1 hour 33 seconds. It's going to be 2 hours here, just covering this, and it's been a lot of silence as we just wait for Terrence Bradley to arrive. So again, as we wait for that, we will probably be here for a little while longer. I'm hoping he does arrive very soon, though, because I'm interested to hear his testimony. But Brookland News will stay with you throughout this, so stick with us. We will be right back in just a few moments, and our live coverage will continue once Terrence Bradley finally arrives. Well, it appears he may be nearby. Is that him right there? There is his representative right there, just standing right in front of the camera there. So it appears we may hear testimony here in just a few moments. I'm wondering when we will get audio back here. I'm not exactly sure, but everyone is getting set once again. And I wonder if it was something out as I was reading through some news stories as we were kind of in this long awaiting period for Terrence Bradley. So during that, I read and the NBC News, updating story, and it said, what goes on in the courtroom while everyone is waiting for testimony to resume? Trump's attorney Steve Sajo just stood up and asked if CNN was in the gallery to confirm to say his name. It's Sado. So I've been saying it wrong also, but so it appears we are going to see him possibly take the stand as we get a very close zoom in, and you can't even see it, what's going on there, but a very close zoom into the chair, and we're kind of waiting, I assume, for the judge to come out. You can see she's talking on the phone there. So now we are just awaiting for the judge to come out, I assume. I assume that our witness has arrived, and that's why we just saw the cameras very much turn. Give me a moment. I want to see if I can go back here just a little bit to where those cameras were turned. And you are actually able to see there a lot of the court that was just earlier there. You can see Attorney Merchant walking off there in the distance, but you can see everyone surrounding up, and I'm wondering if that is Terrence Bradley right there, or is that another lawyer? I don't want to sound uneducated here, so that is what is happening right now. So we will keep you guys updated on that as we again are waiting for the judge to come out, and we get a good close-up of the gallery there. And all of the lawyers working, so I assume that he has arrived, and we could see him very, very soon here. The time is 9:50, 10:50 on the East Coast, where Atlanta, Georgia is, of course, and we're at this point still waiting for the testimony of Terrence Bradley. But stand by with us. I will be right back here in just a moment.
Is still not with us in person. However, there's a proposal to potentially move on to other witnesses. Why don't we start with Ms. Stagg? Ms. Cross.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yes, in order to be efficient with the court's time, we have a witness here and prepared to take out of order, and it sounds as though there's no objection
Okay,
by the defense.
you're listening in there. Just a moment here. The witness, Terrence Bradley, is not there, but there is a proposal to move on to another witness that is actually there now. So I wouldn't be surprised to see that from here.
Did she say it was her first choice? Did she not say who was her first choice?
I think that's.
We're not waiting for too long here.
Was mentioned. I think there are some facts and circumstances surrounding the search for someone to take over the lead of this investigation at that time. Now,
so let's go ahead and listen in here to day 2 of the motion. Please qualify District Attorney at Fulton County, Fani Willis, from Trump election case.
Thank you. The state would call Governor Roy Barnes.
And Judge, just so I'm clear, so you had told us not to ask questions about qualifications. So we did not ask any of our witnesses about qualifications. So the state's now going to bring in evidence of that. We would just ask permission to now be able to go into that.
Sounds to me, well, Ms. Cross?
If you want to ask Governor Barnes about his qualifications, I mean, that's certainly something he'd have knowledge of. I don't know what his basis of knowledge for anyone else's qualifications might be, but I also don't think that opens the door to anything other than what my understanding of what the testimony would be.
As I hear it, the issue of qualifications versus who was her first choice is going to be relevant to her intent, maybe, and perhaps that issue of the case in whole. I don't think that necessarily opens the door. We'll see how it goes.
I believe he's being brought up, Your Honor.
All right.
All right, so as we are kind of listening in here, the court has moved on to new witnesses, to my knowledge, and is calling someone else to the stand here. So as we await here, it appears that witness is fixing to come in. Let's see here who that is as we kind of wait here to exactly know what's going on. But Terrence Bradley, who we were just talking about earlier, is actually not in court. And that's something we were talking about is, why they are, kind of getting everyone, all the lawyers back at their desk here. And now we're still waiting on Terrence Bradley. So Terrence Bradley is still not in the room, but there is a proposal to move on to a new witness. Here, it appears that may be happening very soon. So as we wait to see that witness here, we give a nice look at the gallery, what it's looking like. You can see press there, everyone squeezed up, writing their stories.
Ms. Cross, assuming this may be a 10 to 15 minute witness, does the state have other witnesses on deck that they'd like to go forward with as well?
Yes, we've called to gather everyone we could, so we can go forward with another witness, I believe, after this one.
All right, appreciate it.
Okay. She's saying they will go forward with another witness after this. We're just still waiting here. Oh, and I think the new witness, possibly, I'm just kind of awaiting to see who that may be. Or indeed just other witnesses entering the room that may be called at a later time here. Maybe that's Terrence Bradley. Who knows at this point? Just to refresh everyone's memory here, who you're hearing right now is me, Jackson Mitchell, obviously. So as we continue to await to see a new witness be called to the stand, we are waiting to see who that may be. Here, there we go. This is going to be our new witness here, called to the stand now. Swearing an oath. Let's go ahead and listen in.
Roy Eugene Barnes, Royeugene, Barnes, B-A-R-N-E-S.
Say, good morning, Mr. Barnes. Can you tell the court a little bit about your background as it relates to your service in public service?
I was first elected to the state senate in 1974 from Cobb County, and I served 16 years there. And then in 1990, I ran for governor and was defeated. And
serving in the position of governor, can you tell the court?
I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my
of governor. Can you tell the court a little bit about what you transitioned into after your public service?
I did exactly what I was doing before. I was elected. I went back to practicing law in Marietta, Georgia, with my daughter, who's now judge of the state court, and my son-in-law. And now we have, I think, 6 or 7 lawyers. Charlie Bailey back there was one of them at one time.
Okay. And Governor Barnes, would you consider yourself to be a trial lawyer?
Yes. That's,
Okay.
We don't write contracts or we don't write wills. All we do is try cases in 2021. And she asked me to come down, and I met with her and Nathan Wade, and there were several other in the meeting. She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office, and that I would not do that. And also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had the FBI to report a fella, militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me, and because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him, and he said no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told D.A. Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years, and I didn't like it, and I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
Ultimately, you turned down.
Yes. Yeah, I told her. I said, I'm not interested.
Nothing further from the state.
Mercy.
Morning, Governor Barnes. How are you?
Just fine. How are you?
Good. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
You said it was sometime in 2021. Do you remember?
I think
if
it
early?
was. I don't remember the dates. They all go. I could look it up on my calendar at the office, but I don't have that.
Well, I want to ask you about some statements that Ms. Willis made March 28th, 2021. She was talking about assembling a team for this case. Are you familiar with her work assembling a team for this case?
Well, I assume that's what she was talking to me about. But besides that, I don't know.
And I know you had said you had a meeting with some folks, and Mr. Wade was at that meeting?
Correct.
Okay. So he was with the district attorney interviewing you about taking this case?
Well, of course, I know Nathan very well, as you do.
Yes.
And I exchanged pleasantries with him, but the conversation was with Ms. Willis.
Okay, with Ms. Willis. Were you aware at the time that her team consisted of Brian Watkins, Megan Vargas, Sonia Allen, Shannon Trotty, Sal Chan, and John Floyd? She had reported that was her team on this case.
I know John Floyd was involved, and she probably told me the others, but listen, I barely remember what case I tried last year, much less every word that was said in the conversation.
I understand, fair enough. But she said she was looking to hire more lawyers and investigators to work on this case?
She told me, it was to me, she said, would you be interested in being special prosecutor in this case? And I gave the reply that I've already known. I mean, about hiring other lawyers or whatever, I don't know. All I can testify to is what she told me.
Did she tell you at all why she wanted to hire special counsel and not use someone who was an ADA, not have an actual employee?
No, she did not. I mean, we did not discuss that, and but I would assume it was because in a case as big as this that you'd have to have a decision to help. I know John Floyd has been in some cases over the years out in Cobb County, for example, and others.
Would you agree that an employee of her office, someone who was paid a state salary or a county salary as an ADA, could handle a case like this?
I couldn't tell you that unless I knew the person, knew their experience, and really had been with them in a courtroom.
All right.
Has an opinion on that.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Say no.
Hello, Mr. Sadow.
It's been a while.
It has been a while.
I hope you're well.
I'm doing fine, just getting older, but that beats all time.
That's true, but that applies to all of us, I believe.
Yeah.
I think you indicated that if you had your calendar, you'd be able to pinpoint a date for us.
I would.
Is there a way for you, for example, at a break before you actually leave, to contact your folks to see if you can get a date?
I guess I could. I don't know how far back we archived those, but I assume I could.
Would you be willing to give that a shot for us?
I mean, I'll do whatever the court instructs.
So if I ask the court and the court says go ahead and you could do it, that's all right?
I'll do whatever the court instructs.
I hear you.
And you should too.
I try to live by those words. I'm not always successful, but I try. If I pinpoint a date, for example, I think the record is clear that Mr. Wade was hired for the position on November 1 of 2021. Does that help you at all?
No, it does not.
Okay. Then let's go to the meeting. It sounds like it was just one meeting.
Yes.
And could you tell us where that meeting took place, if you remember?
It was in the conference room adjacent to the district attorney's office.
So was it in this, or the adjoining building?
It was in the Lewis Slayton building.
And District Attorney Willis was there, obviously, right?
Yes. Yes.
And Mr. Wade was there?
The best I recall, now I could be mistaken about that, it's like anything that far away, but that's my recollection.
Do you have a recollection of anyone else being present?
Yeah, there were some other folks, but I don't remember.
Do you remember, were you introduced to Mr. Wade by anything other than you already knew him? Was he given a title or anything? So at least as you're there, if I heard you correctly, Ms. Willis did all the talking, Mr. Wade did not.
I mean, we exchanged pleasantries, but as far as the basis of the conversation, the reason I was there, Ms. Willis did the talk.
And would you be able to give us an estimate of how long this meeting lasted?
Probably,
just rough.
Probably an hour.
And during the meeting, you made it clear, but it was the thanks for the offer, but no thank you.
Oh, yes. I did. As I said, I started off as a prosecutor. And for about 10 or 15 years, I did nothing but criminal. And then, but I've tried to move away from it and do primarily civil now. Mr. Gillen and I have done some white-collar cases over in federal court, and I've got one over there right now. But it's generally business-related, where I have a client that's got a kid or him getting indicted. And the case I have over there now is an alleged fraud case.
Fair to say that based on your career and the work that you've done, you've handled high-profile cases, correct?
I have. I've handled some pretty good cases. I sued Syria one time for beheading a client of mine, recovered $82 million. I guess that's the best high profile, but that was in D.C. I tried that up in D.C.
And what would be considered complex cases, you've handled those as well, correct?
Yes. I mean, we regularly do mass torts, class actions, business torts, breach of contract, and most of those are complex, requiring many experts. We also do malpractice. I did malpractice defense for about 25 years, but since I've returned from the governor's office, I try not to represent an insurance company anymore, and I just tried a malpractice case before Judge Edlin in November. And those are complex cases because of the type of, medical knowledge and that you have to have, and also because of the many experts that you have.
Thank you. Did Ms. Willis, and this is the last question, did Ms. Willis tell you why she had sought you, why you had been her choice?
No, I hadn't, but, I get consulted fairly often on major cases.
Would you believe, based on circumstances in which you were given the offer, that it had to do with the fact that you had handled complex and high-profile cases in the past?
It could have been. I know her very well. I tried a case against her. She worked for the JQC, and I represented Judge Robert Crawford, Mac Crawford, and she prosecuted him, and I defended him. She beat me at the trial. I turned it around at the Supreme Court.
So you had some experience with
Oh, I had plenty of experience with him. She's a very qualified young, well, everybody's young to me, but she's a very qualified young woman.
After that one occasion, did you have any other contact with her in reference to the position itself or who she might be considering?
I had some conversations with her or Jeff DeSantis or some of those, but not really an in-depth, about who she should hire or anything like that.
Did the name Nathan Wade come up in those conversations with her? No, right?
Yeah. Nathan was there, I thought. Now, I could be mistaken, but I thought Nathan was there when I...
For the
I
conference?
think Nathan was... I'm not positive Nathan was there when I met with him.
Right, and my question was probably poorly worded, but what I was asking is after the conference and whatever consulting you might have done,
yes,
did Ms. Willis or Mr. DeSantis bring up the name Nathan Wade as a special prosecutor?
I don't think so. I don't recall one. I mean, Nathan is a good organizer. Nathan can organize stuff. I've watched him over the years. So I wasn't surprised that he was acting as a special prosecutor.
And Mr. DeSantis, for the record, who was that? Jeff DeSantis?
Jeff DeSantis.
Do you know who he is?
Oh, yes.
Could you tell us who he is for the record?
Jeff works in the DA's office. I knew him when he worked for Thurber Baker.
You know what his role in the DA's office is?
I have no earthly idea.
Is he in media? Does that sound familiar?
He has done media in the past. Jeff has generally been, I like Jeff, and I'm very close to him, but he's generally been on the other side of my campaigns.
All right, so we're talking, the best of your recollection, conference, we don't have the date, I'm asking if you could possibly get it, but the conference you have, Mr. Wade could have been there.
Yes, I'm almost sure he was there.
And Ms. Willis, obviously, and Mr. DeSantis was there.
I think Mr. DeSantis was too.
And as far as whether there was anyone else there, you don't have a present recollection?
No.
Okay.
Next time I'll take a picture so I'll have an exact.
Next time, hopefully, you won't have to be here.
Well, hopefully not.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Stockton.
No questions, Judge.
Thank you.
Mr. Durham.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. McDougall.
No questions for the governor, Your Honor.
Mr. Rice.
No questions.
Mr. Gillen.
I've been waiting for this.
I couldn't give up the chance getting up here, Governor. Good to see you again.
Good to see you, Craig.
We've done some work in the past together, haven't we?
I consider you to be one of my best friends and a crackerjack lawyer.
Well, I will say to you on the record that I can understand why they came to see you because you're the finest lawyer that I've ever worked with.
Thank you. I need to put you in the next day.
Yeah, there we go. We'll get that. But one or two more questions.
Okay.
You and I working together when it's appropriate. We've had no qualms about filing motions to disqualify the DA, have we?
No.
Matter of fact, you and I successfully disqualified the DA out in Cobb County in the Brown case, didn't we?
We did.
So whatever needs to be done should be done.
Represent your client.
You got that. Thank you so much.
Mr. Couture, are you still with us by Zoom?
I am, Your Honor.
All right. Any questions?
No, sir.
All right. And Mr. Cromwell for Ms. Latham?
No questions, Your Honor.
All right. Any redirect, Mr. Abadi?
I got it.
Can this witness be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your Honor, is there a way that we could potentially ask through you for that date if you can get it?
The question is, you want the exact date that the meeting occurred?
Yes, if we can get that.
And I'm wondering if we can, if it's really material, the exact date rather than just its proximity to the November 1st hiring. Is that fair? If he knows whether it was far earlier in the year versus maybe closer, would that obviate the need for the exact date?
If you can't get the exact date, of course, we'll take the best we can get.
Okay, let's start there.
All right. Let me
I think, well, you may take care of it for us just if we hold in place here.
I'm not sure I have this.
Well, let me try this first, Governor Barnes, before you do a deep dive in the email there. Do you recall what time of year it was when this meeting occurred?
I'm afraid not.
Okay.
I mean, you know how this is. The cases and the days moved together. I had a fellow a few years ago that said I represented him in 1978, and I told him I'd take his word for it.
Now, I gotta ask, though, you wouldn't do that if it was a question of him saying he just hates you.
No, I would not. I will tell you, I believe lawyers should be well paid, Mr. Senator.
All right, so sir, is that something
I'll have to look. It didn't come up right.
Okay. All right, we'll ask this witness to step down subject to recall. And that might be something the state can...
Okay, and what you just watched there was former
Thank you, sir.
Georgia Governor Roy Barnes testify in front of many of the lawyers there.
Do we have an update on Mr. Bradley?
They're asking for an update on another person here. We're just gonna... That is Terrence Bradley right there. I think so. He may testify here in just a few moments. Something that happened in Roy Barnes' testimony. Just want to make sure we're still listening in here, but there were some notes here in that, and I don't know how much time I have until they bring the next person in here, but he was turned down in he turned down an opportunity to be where Nathan Wade is now, a special prosecutor in the 2020 election interference case against Trump and 19 other co-defendants. Now they really established the fact that he has served many cases and most types of cases. He mentioned some just moments ago something about a 1979 case, and he said, quote, I'll take your word for it there. He also called Fani Willis, the Fulton County, Georgia District Attorney, quote, very qualified young woman. I noted that because, for him to be testifying, in a way, as kind of this person who was inquired about this and things of that nature, to say that, also, I wonder, what his really opinion was about them having a relationship.
Add sparkle to any design with glitters.
About them having a relationship. So we're going to have to keep you guys updated on that as we receive more information on this very incident today. I am Jackson Mitchell, and we have been bringing you coverage throughout the day as the court is awaiting their next person to be taken in, which to my knowledge will be Terrence Bradley. He has arrived. They said that his lawyers were possibly outside. So as we again wait for that, let's take a look back in the courthouse here as we take a look and wait for what we're going to see here. Let me listen back in here. As we wait to see and hear what's going to be going on. I think Terrence Bradley is up next, though. It appears that lawyers are preparing, reading through different things of that nature. So kind of just waiting here. But again, some notes here is that the Roy Barnes, who just testified moments ago, was, inquired about being the special prosecutor, which is Nathan Wade's job now in the 2020 election interference case. I noted something else, that she said that Nathan Wade was not her first pick. He really defended that by saying that he was also inquired on this job. So I think that shows that, maybe she is correct on that nature. Maybe, he wasn't the first one inquired for the job. Maybe he was the second or third or something of that nature. He says he gets contacted on a lot of different cases, though.
He is asked whether the defendants would accept.
Let's listen in here.
As long as I can show him documents that he needs his memory refreshed, then that's fine.
It is not. The state would have an objection to this witness not appearing in person.
Understood. All right, Mr. Ward, I think we're going to need continual updates from you, and I'll also some kind of expectation of what this happens.
Okay, so what you're hearing here is Terrence Bradley has just requested to, his team has just requested to testify via Zoom. The state objected that,
Violation of his subpoena.
and they said he is in violation of his subpoena. That is what you're seeing here and what you're listening to.
We initially been told maybe it was going to be 9:30 and 10. Do we have any better idea to get a realistic expectation?
It's 11:19 now. You just heard the judge say maybe it was going to be 9:30 or 10. It's now 11:19 on the East Coast. So that's something you have to point that out, that Mr. Ward, I think is his name there, has been representing him.
Is he without
And
too much into the particulars, has he already been seen by the doctor and he's waiting for results, or is he still waiting to be seen by the doctor? And after he gets those results,
so that is what you're kind of listening into there.
but potentially that meeting could occur later.
So we're just waiting for Terrence Bradley. The judge saying he is in violation of his subpoena.
Get any kind of an update on how much time they think that those results are going to take. If it's more than an hour or two, I think we would want to start bringing him here, and he can have that follow-up consultation later. All right, thank you, sir. At this point, I think we've got something else that can occupy our time, and I think we need to move forward with that. All right. Of course.
Okay, you heard there him requesting a 1.6 motion. The judge saying we have another witness, I think, here. So let's go ahead and listen back in there.
My name is John Clifford Floyd III.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Can you tell the court, are you currently retired?
Yes, I am.
And prior to being retired, can you tell the court a little bit about, did you work in the legal career? Were you a lawyer?
I was an attorney. I practiced law. I've probably tried 1,000 cases. About 50% of my practice was criminal law. 25% of it was family law. And the rest was whatever walked through the front door could pay for it.
Okay. And
Could we wait 1 second? The governor's come back. He might have to.
My calendar shows it was October 26, 2021.
All right, and would defense counsel accept it as a stipulation, or is there any follow-up questioning needed on that? Mr. Barnes is still considered under oath on this point. All right, I just would look for a show of hands or for someone to speak now on Zoom, and hearing none. Thank you, sir. You're excused.
And, sir, can you tell the court, are you from Atlanta?
No, I grew up in South Central Los Angeles. I spent most of my legal career, I would say, in Washington, D.C. was kind of the circle, but I've tried cases all over the country, and I tried the longest. I was the first lawyer to try an international criminal court. I was with the International Criminal Tribunal for Rwanda. I was in trial there for 4.5 years in Arusha, Tanzania, and Hague in the Netherlands.
Okay. And when you weren't there, it sounds like your kind of center of gravity was Washington, D.C.
Correct, but I've tried cases in West Virginia, Maryland, Florida, California.
All over.
Yes.
And do you, sir, can you tell the court, do you have any children?
I have one daughter, Fani Willis.
Okay. And I want to direct your attention back to 2019, okay?
Yes.
Back in 2019, can you tell the court, did you move here to Atlanta?
I was living in Johannesburg, South Africa, and unfortunately, for some reasons, I could not get an extended visa. When I retired from the practice of law in 2018, I moved to South Africa, and I had to leave South Africa, and I did then come to Atlanta.
Okay, and do you, sir, remember about the time period in 2019 when you moved in with your daughter here in Atlanta?
It would have been the spring or summer of 2019.
And after you moved here, did you get a driver's license to kind of confirm your residency in Atlanta?
Well, my driver's license for the District of Columbia was going to expire on my birthday, which is in October. And yes, I did get a license here in the state of Georgia.
Your Honor, may I approach the witness?
Good.
If you could just take a look at what's been marked as stages.
Okay, Your Honor, would you, if you don't mind, my eyes are very bad, which is one of the reasons I retired, and so I need a magnifying glass, so I'll be constantly. Thank you. Yes, I see it was issued on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so before we get there, do you recognize State's Exhibit 2?
Yes, just my driver's license.
And is State's Exhibit 2 a fair and accurate copy of your physical driver's license?
Absolutely.
This time, Your Honor, the State would tender what's been marked as State's Exhibit 2 into evidence.
No.
Seeing no other objections, it's submitted. State's Exhibit 2 is submitted for the record.
Now, and for the record, Your Honor, the State is going to supplement State's Exhibit 2 with a redacted copy of the license. The current copy is not redacted with the address and things of that nature.
And do we need to mark that differently in any way?
I will mark it as State's Exhibit 2A.
Perfect.
Now, you talked about when your driver's license was issued. Can you tell the court when was that driver's license here, your Georgia driver's license issued?
It was on 9/28/2019.
Okay, so September 28, 2019. Now, when you moved into District Attorney Willis's home, who lived there?
Well, my daughter lived there. I lived there, and from time to time, my grandchildren would come.
Okay, and did your grandchildren, were they at school coming and going?
Exactly. I think they were in school in various jurisdictions.
And during the time, how long did you live at or with Miss Willis and at her home here in Fulton County?
She was forced to move after she was elected. I don't know if you want me to go through the whole thing, but that, Your Honor, if Your Honor will indulge me. After she was sworn in on January 1 of 2021, and on or about the 3rd of February, at probably 5:30 a.m. in the morning, there were people outside her house cursing and yelling and calling her the B word and the N word, and just, it was bizarre, okay? It just...
Pause, sir. Mr. Urbani. Here's the objection to you.
I would say it's effect on listener. He was present while all of these things were occurring. But I can...
No, that's... And he's saying he was personally present to hear these things?
Yes.
Okay, overruled.
Okay, and fortunately, the neighbors called the police and disbanded the group, and, it was just, it was just, I hadn't seen anything exactly like it before.
Okay, and after that happened, can you tell the court, did Ms. Willis have to move from her home?
Yes, she was forced to leave.
And can you tell the court, after she was forced to leave, shortly after she was sworn in, did you remain at her home in Fulton County?
Yes, I stayed there really until 2022, I guess.
And from what you described, did you fear for her safety?
Absolutely. I mean, not only did I do that, I mean, the South Fulton police, they brought somebody, a man with a dog, because there have been so many death threats. And they said they were going to blow up the house. They were going to kill her. They were going to kill me. They were going to kill my grandchildren. I mean, on and on and on. It just, it became, and I was concerned for her safety.
And after those concerns came to your attention, and after what you heard and saw that day, you remained at the house?
Yes.
And can you tell the court, with what you just described, why did you remain living at the district attorney's home here in Fulton County?
Mr. Bell?
I believe it's relevant based on a lot of the questions that were asked yesterday of Ms. Willis as to about the security threat and the fact that it was implied that those threats were not necessarily real in the sense that Mr. Floyd remained in the home. There were many questions about the fact that he remained and her children could still come and go to the house. I think it's relevant based to the testimony that was elicited from defense counsels yesterday.
Overruled.
Well, these South Fulton police, first they put a car in front of the house that was there permanently, a police car. That was thing one. Thing two, they brought a person with a dog sometimes more than once a day, twice a day, and they would circle the house to look for bombs. I knew that was a house that my daughter had worked for. It was a brand new house. She's the only one who had ever lived there. It's a 4-bedroom, brand new house, and somebody needed to protect the house, and I stayed there to basically take care of the house, to take care of the yard, to take care of that. Also, somebody sprayed, again, the B word and the N word on the house, and I don't think my daughter even knew that. I cleaned it off and called the police, and South Fulton police, they have, I'm sure, all the records of all the things that happened. And all of the neighbors, I notified all the neighbors to look out and to watch out. And it was so crazy. I mean, it was just so crazy. We'd have people would show up and park car. There was a guy parked for probably 8 hours out in front of the house. It was just, and we'd call the police and,
Now, at the time that you lived there with Ms. Willis, and I guess even when you remained, so during the time period of 2019 to the end of 2020, are you aware if Ms. Willis was dating someone?
Yeah, she did. She had a boyfriend when I first got there.
And did you meet her boyfriend?
Yeah, I met him often.
Okay, and did you know him by any specific nickname?
Yeah, Deuce.
Okay, and can you tell the court while you were living there, how often would you see him?
Sometimes every day, sometimes, every other day. He was a disc jockey or something, and he had all this paraphernalia that I'd have to move out. There was a thing with the keyboard, things that played music and so forth and so on. So.
Now, when you moved in 2019 and then throughout the years in year 2020, 2021, had you ever met someone named Nathan Wade?
I did not meet Nathan Wade until 2023, about a year ago, when a reporter by the name of Issakoff interviewed me. That was the first time I had met him.
You said that was in 2023?
2023, right.
And I know you said you hadn't met him until 2023, but when you were living at Ms. Willis's house in Fulton County, did you ever meet Mr. Wade in the year 2019?
Absolutely not.
How about in the year 2020?
Absolutely not.
Did you ever see Mr. Wade at Ms. Willis's Fulton County house in the year 2021?
Never.
And is it your testimony that the only time or the first time that you met Mr. Wade was in 2023?
Let me say something. Mr. Wade said that he remembers seeing me, and I do remember some banter. I'm a member of Kappa Alpha Psi fraternity, and there's kind of this thing that goes on between fraternities, and Mr. Wade is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha, and they're, I do remember there was some kind of banter when my daughter was sworn in to be district attorney between me and a couple of guys, and he said he remembers me. I don't remember him.
And prior to that experience that you're talking about, as well as, I guess, your official meeting in 2023, had you ever even heard his name?
No, never.
I don't think I have any further questions, Your Honor.
Ms. Merchant?
Yes, thank you, Judge.
Fine. How are you, counsel?
Good, thank you. Just got a couple questions. On Monday, we heard you were in California. Do you have a place in California?
People always ask me about where do I live. I guess I live right here, sitting in this seat right now. But yes, the answer is I have a place in Los Angeles.
Okay, you do. All right. So do you share time or split time between Los Angeles and Georgia?
Actually, I'm working on a documentary film, and I'm supposed to be being filmed not for this trial, but I'm supposed to be being filmed right now. It was planned, and we had to stop it because they asked me to come here. But the answer is I'm working on a documentary, and I'll be in California until I finish the documentary if we don't have another actor strike and we don't have another writer strike.
So do you own property in California?
No, I don't. I live with a friend of mine.
You live with a friend of yours. Okay.
Yeah.
And when did you first move? Let me qualify with the dates. Did you spend any time in 2019 in California?
No, and the reason I didn't is that when I first came here, the answer is no, I did not. What happened was COVID. Once COVID hit, I was just paralyzed. I couldn't go any place. I couldn't go anything. I'm a theater buff. I used to go to theater at least once a week. But when COVID hit, I just couldn't. I couldn't go to the dentist, which I need to do. Or, it was just a thing. So I was just stuck. I was just stuck there.
I may be wrong, but I believe COVID hit in 2020. So I was asking about 2019. In 2019, did you spend any time in California?
Before COVID was even here in the United States, remember I lived in South Africa and I've traveled the world. I knew COVID was coming before. I knew COVID was around before. They may have announced it in 20, but in fact, I knew about it and I knew what was happening in 19.
Okay, so let's walk through 2019 then. You said you moved here in September. So
no, I didn't say that. I moved here probably prior to September. In September is when I got the driver's license. I probably moved in the springtime.
I'm sorry, you did. You said spring, summer. I see that in my notes. So spring, summer 2019 is when you moved here. So up until spring, summer 2019, where did you live?
I lived in Johannesburg. Well, I lived in Washington, D.C., 2018. I had planned to retire for the rest of my life in South Africa. I had worked for Nelson Mandela and the Free Mandela and get that. And someone I'd gone to law school, he had located there after Mandela was freed from prison and became president. I was going to live there for the rest of my life, but unfortunately, because of political reasons, I could not stay in South Africa, and I was forced, in a sense, to come back to the United States.
Okay. So let's just focus in on the period from, let's just start with October 2019, okay? We'll call that the relevant period. October 2019 until the end of 2019. Were you in Georgia every single day of that year?
Absolutely.
Okay. So now let's move to 2020, okay? And every single day, before I move on, every single day in 2019, you slept at your daughter's house, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So let's start in 2020, all right? So 2020, the entire year, did you travel anywhere?
No.
Okay. You didn't travel at all that year?
No. So, and I didn't go to the movies, which upset me also.
So that entire year, 2020, you remained here in Georgia?
Right.
In 2021, did you do any traveling?
No.
So when did you move back, or when did you start this documentary film in Los Angeles?
What I had been doing to occupy time is I was writing my own memoir. As I delved into my family background, I discovered something, and that's what got me to working on the documentary. So I want you to understand what was going on in my life. I pitched I have a movie script called Bad Blood. I have a movie script we're trying to sell. So I tried to sell that, and I just happened to mention something that happened during the Civil Rights Movement. SNCC, it's called the SNCC 5. The legendary Peter Fitzsimmons was interested, and so with Peter Fitzsimmons and Leah Smith, we're now doing the documentary. So
I don't want to interrupt you, but what I was asking was when you moved to Los Angeles, not what you moved there for.
Well, you keep saying moved. I haven't moved to Los Angeles. I spent more time in California, in Oakland, if you really want to just be, because Peter is basically San Francisco based. So we're working on the documentary.
Okay.
I was in Los Angeles because I was going to the Pan-African Film Festival, and that's why we were there. And the way Hollywood works is, you know, when you make connections, and film festivals are a place to try to sell ideas and meet people and organize things.
You still own property in Washington, D.C., correct?
No, I don't.
You don't own property at 1467 Roxana Road Northwest?
That's where I used to live.
That's where you used to live. Did you own that property?
Yes.
Okay. And you owned that property when you moved here in 2019?
Yes.
And you owned it in 2020, correct?
Well, now you talk about a very complicated issue. I left the property. There was a dispute between me, and I had gotten a reverse mortgage company, and there was a dispute between me and and I just I walked away from it.
Okay. You walked away from it with almost $300,000?
Yeah, what is the relevance of that?
Where he lived and registered to vote. That's what they brought in. So that's.
Why is the money he got from the sale relevant at all?
It's the only proof I have of that he owned that address. So I can move on now. Right. Okay. When did you sell that property?
I didn't. The reverse mortgage company took it.
Oh, okay. So in 2019, when you got your driver's license here,
yes.
The next day you registered to vote, correct?
I think it may have been the same day, but maybe it was the next day. I don't remember.
But you didn't own property here in Georgia that day?
No, I was living with my daughter.
You said that you met Mr. Wade, that you remember you met in 2023, right? That was the first time you
Correct.
remember? Okay. And I wasn't really clear. You said something about meeting him. Was it with Mr. Isikoff, or did Mr. Isikoff tell you?
No, I was being interviewed by Mr. Isikoff.
Okay.
And he walked in, and I met him. That was the first time. He walked into the office. And
where were you being interviewed?
At the district attorney's office.
And Mr. Wade walked into that interview?
Yes.
And so Ms. Willis had not told you about Mr. Wade prior to that?
Absolutely not.
So she didn't tell you anything about their relationship before you met him that day?
No.
But Mr. Wade remembers meeting you in 2020?
He said that at my daughter's swearing in. I do remember that we having some banner about fraternities, but other than that.
Oh, at your daughter's swearing in. Okay.
Right.
That's all I have. Just one moment. Nothing else. Thank you.
Morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you, counsel?
I'm fine. I'll try to ask you some specific questions if we could, okay?
And I'll give specific answers if I can.
Perfect.
Okay.
The driver's license address, I'm not going to publish. That is State's Exhibit Number 2. But is the address on that driver's license the home that you're referring to as your daughter's in South Fulton?
Absolutely.
Okay. It was unclear to me, maybe no one else, but it's unclear to me, when did you stop living at what I would call your daughter's home in South Fulton?
Things got so bad and threats got so many, even against me, that the house became basically uninhabitable. You know, I got tired of sleeping in one room one day and no one that. I would say December of 2022, something like that.
December of 2022.
Right. That's about right. Yeah.
Now, let me change and go back for another date. You had indicated, and I didn't hear it, when was your daughter, Miss Willis, when was she sworn in as district attorney?
On January 1, 2021.
Okay. And did you indicate that there was an incident, and I know you've described it, was that incident on February the 3rd, 2021?
That's my best recollection.
Okay. So my question then is, after February 3rd of 2021, how much longer did Miss Willis stay at the house before she moved somewhere else?
Very short period of time, and I cannot be precise, but I would bet all the money I ever made, it wasn't more than a month and a half, if that long.
Okay, so we're talking about, best of your recollection, end of February into the beginning of March, give or take, of 2021, when Miss Willis would have moved to a different location.
Exactly.
Okay. And did Miss Willis return to the house, that is, the house that you were in, at any point in time that you can remember?
From time to time, she and her security might show up for her to pick something up or take something or something, okay. But she always would come with her security.
Okay. My question was poorly worded. I apologize. Did she come back permanently to her house?
Oh, absolutely not.
Okay,
absolutely not.
So as far as you're aware, that once Miss Willis left the house, her house, South Fulton House, so the record's clear, in either late February or into March of 2021, best of your recollection, she's not returned to that home to live.
No, it became uninhabitable. I mean, it just, you know, I mean,
that's okay.
I would have to walk around that house looking out of every window. I made a habit of having to walk around the whole house. I got lights so that if somebody would come at night in the back, so that those kinds of, you know, reflecting lights, I had those put up.
I don't mean to again finish off.
Okay.
All I was interested in is whether she had ever returned.
No, the answer is no.
Okay. Now, when Miss Willis, when your daughter left the home, time period, end of February, beginning of March, give or take, 2021, do you know where she moved to?
No, and I didn't want to know. I intentionally did not want to know, because I was not, you know, if somebody stuck a gun to my head and I could tell them, I wasn't going to tell them anyway, or I'd have made up something, but I didn't want to know.
Okay, so would it be fair to say that if you didn't want to know, you never visited her at the place that she moved to?
Oh, I never did.
Never did?
Never did.
Okay. Do you know how long she stayed at the first place that she went to after she left her house before she moved to a second place?
What I know, and this is hearsay, counsel, is that my daughter has had to move something like 4 times.
But do you know any potential?
No, I don't know any place. I was taken one time for Christmas Day. I've only seen my daughter, and this is very hard for me to say, but during the period my daughter left, I've only seen my daughter 13 times, because I can't, and we've never seen each other more than maybe 3 hours because of, you know, the nightmare threats against her and me.
And I understand that, and from the perspective of being a father myself, I understand what that means. So I'm going to move away from that. I was just trying to get an idea of date-wise, okay? So let me try to get one more date. In 2023, when you were being interviewed by one of the gentlemen that wrote the book at the DA's office, and Mr. Wade came in, can you give us, other than 2023, what the date would be?
I'm sorry, I can't, counsel.
How about spring, summer, any idea?
I would guess spring or summer, but I can't.
Okay.
I don't. I'm sorry.
And you've already indicated, at least to your recollection, that was the first time that you'd met Mr. Wade.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. I'm not arguing with you about that. I want to go to Miss Willis's boyfriend that you referenced. Okay, you met Miss Willis's boyfriend, as you've characterized it, when you came here in 2019.
Correct.
And you met him on one occasion, several occasions?
Oh, no, I saw him often.
Oh, so you mean there was no secret that she was dating this man?
Not from me.
Not from you.
And not, he was a disc jockey of some kind. I think he had a government job during the day. I don't know what it was, but apparently he would do weddings and so forth and so on. He was a disc jockey, played music. So he had all his stuff was always in the way, and I was always having to try to push it aside. And anyway.
But Miss Willis, your daughter didn't keep him from you, correct?
No.
No, I mean, there was no doubt he...
I mean, we lived in, my daughter and I lived in the same house. I mean, he came and went,
Right. Now, when did you learn that your daughter had a romantic, personal relationship with Mr. Wade?
Well, about 7 weeks ago when as a matter of fact, I just found out when other folks found out. Okay?
But as your daughter, as I understand it, never told you one time in the year of 2022 that she was dating Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
And until recently, you didn't know from anyone, including your daughter, that she dated Mr. Wade, correct?
That's correct.
That is, whatever the relationship is between father and daughter, she kept that a secret from you, correct?
Correct.
That's all I need to know.
Mr. Stockton.
No.
Good morning, Mr.
Good morning.
Correct.
Good morning, Counsel.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh, no, no. See, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash, and I trained, you always keep some cash, because I've been places, and just because of the color of my skin, for example, I took a fellowship at Harvard when my daughter was just, if I might, Your Honor, when I was just, she was just, maybe 3 years old. And I remember going to a restaurant in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and I had a American Express credit card and maybe a Visa or whatever. And I had a lot of what they call traveler's checks. I don't even know if they still have traveler's checks, but traveler's checks. And there was a sign said, with the credit card. For whatever reasons, the man would not take my American Express credit card. So I pulled out my Visa card, and he wouldn't take my Visa card. So then I pulled out my traveler's checks. He said, we don't take checks. Now, these were traveler's checks. This was money. I had a $10 bill. I'll never forget this as long as I live. And he said, the bill for my wife at the time, Fani's mother, Fani, and myself was like $9.95, and I had a $10 bill. That was all that. And I always remember that. But even before that, I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash, always. For example, I had 3 safes in my house. I put some of my clients' stuff there too, things I didn't want other lawyers to be, because you're always in a firm, and I knew that there were special conditions, so some of my clients' things I would bring home, put them in the safe. But I've always kept safes. And as a matter of fact, I gave my daughter her first cash box and told her, always keep some cash.
So is that a yes?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
That's all I got, Judge.
Mr. Durham.
No questions.
Mr. McDougald.
No questions, Your Honor.
Thank you. Mr. Rice.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Gillen.
It's still morning. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Consul. How are you?
Just fine. Just a few questions following up. When you were talking about when you learned about Mr. Wade and your daughter, correct?
Correct.
Now, did your daughter tell you in around October of 2022 that she had gone on a Caribbean cruise with Mr. Wade to the Bahamas?
The answer is I knew that my daughter had gone, but I did not know who she went with or what the circumstances were. So I knew that she had gone out of town, but I didn't know with whom.
I see. And did she tell you in November of 2022 that she had gone to Aruba and stayed at the Hyatt Regency Resort there in Aruba for 3 days with Mr. Wade? Did she tell you that?
The answer was, again, I knew she went out of town. I didn't even know where she went. I knew she was going out of town. She told me she was going out of town. I think she might have said she was going out of the country or something. She'd be gone. But other than that, that was all.
Okay. And did she tell you in March of 2023 that she was going to Belize for several days with Mr. Wade?
Same answer, that I knew she would tell me she was going out of town, and she may or may not have told me where she was going, but she'd be gone for a couple of days.
Okay. Now, in 2023, you were in many days you would be out in California, correct?
Some days I'd be in California, correct.
Okay. Well, did she tell you in May of 2023 that she was traveling to Napa Valley with Mr. Wade, so maybe y'all could see each other when she visited California with Mr. Wade?
The answer is no.
And so the first time that you ever met Mr. Wade or learned about Mr. Wade, to your recollection, was in 2023?
That's correct.
That's all I have, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Kucherov, on Zoom.
Yes, Ron, just a couple quick questions. Good morning, sir. I know I can't see you.
I can't see you either, but
We can take a moment.
Good morning, Counsel.
We can take a moment. Let's just pause, see if we can change the screens to show Mr. Kucherov. Sorry. We need
Your Honor, I'm on a phone, so it's kind of difficult.
Can you turn your screen on, though?
I'm trying to. Does that work?
Just to hold one more moment? All right, there we go. You can proceed, Mr. Kucherov.
Sir, you seem to know about the issue of cash in this transaction. You said it was a black thing. How did you know that the cash was going to be an issue in this testimony?
Because I was asked for it, and I was prepped by the lawyers, and they asked me about it. What else?
And did you speak with Mr. Wade about your testimony?
No.
Did you speak with your daughter about your testimony?
She may have been present when the lawyers were. I really don't remember.
If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
What do you? Maybe I'm not understanding your question, Counsel. So maybe you want to restate. What is it that you're asking me?
Yeah, if it wasn't clear, I can re-ask the question. I'll rephrase it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
Mr. Wade. If Mr. Wade and your daughter were dating, you wouldn't have known that unless your daughter told you.
I did not know that they were dating. And when were you talking about the cash? I didn't know that. I don't know what you're asking me. What I told my child from the time she was a child is always have some money. Always have some money. If you go on a date so that people don't try to stick you and you want to leave whoever, always keep some cash, okay?
Mr. Floyd, you answered the question that the attorneys prepped you for that, so that's all I wanted to know.
Anything else, Mr. Kucherov?
That's it, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Cromwell.
No questions, Your Honor.
Mr. Abadi?
Your Honor. Mr. Floyd, now, it wasn't common for your daughter to confide in you about her romantic life at all.
No, and I haven't confided in her about mine before when I had one, okay?
And you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc
Hey,
jockey.
Debs.
Is that an objection?
I think that might have just been still off mute.
Okay.
Let's keep going.
Now, you wouldn't have known about her boyfriend, the disc jockey, had you not been living with her, correct?
That's correct.
I'll allow overruled.
I have nothing further.
Did he answer the question?
He said that's correct.
All right. By show of hands, any redirect on those points only. Ms. Merchant.
Yes. I just want to know when you were prepped by the lawyers, when this prep session was.
I just got off the plane on, what was it, Tuesday night? I think I was probably drooling at the mouth. I was so tired. So it must have been, I got in Wednesday. It must have been Wednesday.
Okay. And did you talk about any of the testimony from yesterday or watch any news reports or anything like that?
Oh, absolutely. You can't cut the TV on without seeing this. The first thing, and I listen to conservative radio a lot, and, last night for 5 hours, all they talked about was this case.
So you were aware of what the testimony your daughter gave yesterday was?
Yeah, unless you don't cut the radio on, unless you don't cut the television on, unless you don't read the AJC or any other, the New York Times or whatever, which I do every day, of course.
So is it fair to say nobody instructed you that you were under the rule of sequestration?
Right, and I'm not under subpoena either.
Thank you.
All right. Anything else? Seeing and hearing none. Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Thank you very much, Your Honor. It's a pleasure to appear in front of you, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right. Ms. Cross, let me check in. Was the state planning to call additional witnesses?
Not at this time, Your Honor. We're again trying to accommodate if there's a
Sure.
lapse in schedule to be able to this afternoon. But right now, that was our last witness.
Okay. So even if Mr. Bradley testifies to some extent, it's still the potential that the state has no further witnesses?
I anticipate at least one more will be available this afternoon, but that would be it.
Okay. So there are potentially more state's witnesses. All right.
Judge, before we move on, I'd move to strike the last witness's testimony.
All right. So I think the rule is invoked, and the instruction was for the parties to tell all witnesses subpoenaed or expected to appear about the rule. I don't think the remedy is necessarily striking. I think it can go also to this credibility as well. So to that extent, unless Ms. Cross, you want something else to be heard on that, point is made. All right. Do we have an update for Mr. Bradley?
Yes, Your Honor. Yeah, he should be here at 12:25.
Okay. Then what I think we should do is have these preliminary conversations about privilege, see if we can make any headway, and then take our afternoon break. So to that end, counselors, I don't know if you just want to argue in place there or go to the table, whatever makes you comfortable. But Mr. Chopra, I think maybe it was relayed to you since you weren't in the court earlier this morning. We'd had some initial conversations about the distinction between the privilege and Rule 1.6, and it sounded like you wanted to be heard on that.
Your Honor, it was brought to my attention. I apologize.
What do you need?
Okay, and they appear to be going to, again, what they're considering a 1.6, which is a break here, talking about privilege. Judge McAfee saying hopefully they can make some headway. Also, another thing, I'm not sure if we're going to see him testify in between that, or them go to their lunch break before or after. So
Microphone there at the jury box. You can try to either try to lift that microphone up and speak in the jury box, or make your way over to the podium.
here we go. I think we may have something being said here. Let's listen in.
All right, and no, that was authority provided by Mr. Sadow over our morning recess, and I think that was indicated to go more towards a potential crime fraud argument. I don't think we've really gotten there yet.
It's not crime fraud per se. It's the same notion. It's fraud on the court, different proposition.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and while that is happening,
the case that I had cited to this morning, showing the distinction between the two, was Tenet Healthcare. So that's
Let's go. Let me just go ahead and turn this down just a little bit as we listen in there. I'm listening in, of course. But right now, here is what a little bit was going on here in Roy, Roy Barnes, the former Georgia governor's testimony that happened a little bit earlier. But John Floyd the third, which is District Attorney of Fulton County, Georgia's Fani Willis's father. So that was interesting to see another primary source kind of come in here.
right, and the citation for that is 273 Georgia 206. I'll give you time to review.
Need
Oh.
prescription eyewear fast? Shop hundreds of.
So that is also something we are watching. As It's pretty interesting to see this all. Watching the testimony between both of the people who have come up today, and that's something that has been going on for the last little while. But let's talk on. We talked on Roy Barnes' testimony a little bit ago. I'm sorry, we are having a few technical difficulties. Let me see if I can get those worked out for you guys. But as I kind of talk here, you can see there. I'm trying to listen in to hear exactly what they're saying here. But I want to go now to his testimony. He and Willis lived in Fulton County, the Fulton County, Georgia home, the southern Fulton County, Georgia home. And children visited here and there. That was a question that was asked kind of who was at that house, who was there, who was around during the time that he lived there. And he ended up saying that he lived there. And I don't know if I have it. I know I wrote it down. Oh, yeah. It was until 2023 is how long he stayed at the Fulton County home. So last year, and I think he specified the exact date somewhere. Yes, he said 2023 first. It says, but it goes, and then later at a later time, he said he stopped living at the South Fulton home in December of 2022. So that is when he moved out of that home. As we kind of watch this here, now let's go. Let me go.
Anything we want to add to that?
Just gonna listen in here for just a second.
What the arguments were that got us past 1.6, Judge. I'm not here to insinuate to the court that we would do something else. I don't know.
But there was a line of questioning that Ms. Merchant decided to write out and share with the parties. Were there any initial thoughts, comments, reactions to that? Again, just trying to make sure we make the best use of Mr. Bradley's time once he arrives.
Your Honor, I just want to say that just to reiterate that my client is not
Okay, I think they're talking on that 1.6, the attorney-client privilege there, as we kind of listen in. Also happening today is President Biden is expected to speak on the death of a Russian prison. I'm sorry, on the death of a Russian critic. So that will happen later today. We will not stream that, but of course you can find that anywhere. So as we still kind of listen into this, and I apologize if it's loud to anyone, we're just kind of tuning in just a little bit, but let's go back to John Floyd's testimony. He says on the 3rd of February, which he said, I think, there's not a specific year listed on here, but he said January 1st, 2021, I think, was when, and there you listen, and there you go, you were listening in there, breaking until 12 o'clock here. Okay, so give me just a moment here. And this is going to be when our coverage wraps up here in just a moment here. But the court has broken until 12 CST, 12 p.m. CST. And give me a moment. I'm just typing up something here, trying to make sure everything sounds right. And there we go, we lost our audio. But all right, so the court has broken until 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. Our coverage is going to wrap up here in just a moment. But first, let's talk for just a second on what all occurred today. What happened? So we're going to give you a quick recap here. So as we kind of stay with the court and still watch the court has broken until 12 p.m. as I was just stating there. But as we talk about this, let's go ahead and first talk about the key testimony today. That key testimony, and it appears we have lost that feed. I don't know if I think we're going to get, there we go. We got it back there. Taking the camera off the tripod there. I'm not sure what is going on there. Anyways. Key testimony today being from the father of Fani Willis and also from former Georgia governor there. That's going to be Roy Barnes that also testified today. Let me get all my pages right just so I can go through here and talk about it all. Okay, so let's first talk about Roy Barnes, who testified a little earlier today here. And let me see something. I want to see if I can just give me a moment. Okay, there we go. Okay. Okay, so let's talk now a little bit about Roy Barnes, who really had key testimony in this case, reviewing some shots from earlier when he was actually testifying there. So, reviewing some shots from earlier of Roy Barnes' testimony. Maybe here. So some shots from earlier of Roy Barnes' testimony as we continue to kind of take a look here. Some key things he testified about was the fact that he was actually inquired to take the job of Nathan Wade, the special prosecutor now in this case, and the person and who's really involved in this drama, the relationship that Fani Willis had with, but he says he turned down that special prosecuting spot for the 2020 election interference case that we were just talking about. And there you go, you're viewing some questions he was taking. But I think one of the things that happened there, he established the fact that as an attorney, as a lawyer, he has handled many different types of cases. He mentioned class action lawsuits and things of that nature. But also something key that I wrote down is he called Fani Willis, quote, a very qualified young woman, end quote. I think that was key. Only thing we didn't hear is kind of his opinion on the relationship type deal. His opinion on if that is ethical and if she can still work. So we don't have it specified as if he's talking about her work or the relationship here. So that's something that we don't have yet key specified in this testimony by former Georgia Governor Roy Barnes. So that is something also to note as you take a look there at Roy Barnes. It's pretty interesting to see what we saw from there. Okay, and let's go over now, if we can, to John Floyd, who also had some key testimony, who just finished testifying just moments ago here earlier. And let me fix this up, guys, so we can play it. So here are some clips earlier of John Floyd's testimony. That was also something really key to this case. He gave a longer testimony as if there were more lawyers who had questions to this. Let's begin with it. Okay, so we established the fact earlier that he and Willis had lived in Fulton County, and there we go. He and Willis had lived in Fulton County together for a little while until after she was sworn in and she began to received death threats and things of that nature. People were coming to their house in southern Fulton County, targeting it for different things of that nature. He said the 3rd of February, people were cursing at the home. Neighbors ended up calling the police. He said, fortunately, they called the police there, and Fani Willis was forced to leave. He specified later that Fani Willis was forced to leave. I think it was going to be, yes, the end of February, beginning of March was the time that she began to move. He said he did not remember a specific date or time, but that's when that was. Something else, he said he stayed at the Fulton County home until 2022, I think. 2022, I think that's what he stated there. It would have been, I have it somewhere here in my notes, just stopped living at the Southern Fulton home in December of 2022. So that's also something key to the case for John Floyd, the father of Fani Willis. And I think it's key to the case that he did testify. They also talked about if he had talked about his testimony and what his lawyers were saying in the lawyer briefing to his daughter, Fani Willis, okay? He said police cars would come by every once in a while, and dogs would have to come around and sniff for bombs and things of that nature. But something else key in this case is he said he didn't even, know who Nathan Wade was until 2023. So I think that was something very interesting in this case, that he did not even begin to know or, talk to Nathan Wade until 2023. And at that point, I think their relationship had been over. Let me go to some of yesterday's notes here. I have them somewhere. The relationship ended in June or July of 2023. So maybe they were still together. There wasn't a specific month. It was just that it was around 2023. Then he was asked if he ever saw Wade in 2020, 2021, 2022. He again said that he hadn't seen him until 2023 or even met with him. Also, something key in this case, that Nathan Wade said, and let's talk more about the relationship of them meeting each other. Nathan Wade actually said that he saw him, or possibly had. I don't think it was an interaction. I don't have the exact words that he said, but they had some type of he saw him in 2021, I think, at the swearing in of the new Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis at the time. So that was something key there. Something he said that there was a banter between fraternities, and that's kind of how they how he says, and when I say he, I'm referring to Nathan Wade, knew or had seen John Floyd, because in this case, they're both a part of a fraternity, according to my knowledge. That's what they said earlier. Okay, let's talk more about his continued. I had to write 2 pages on him. He really was specifying that he does not have an exact place of living. I think he was specifying that he went back and forth from California to Georgia, California from Georgia. It mentioned that he was in Africa and he had traveled across the world. Let's go now to he said, John Floyd said that after Willis had moved out, she rarely ever came back to the house, and if she did, she came with her security team, obviously. And she mentioned that yesterday in her testimony, after we figured out that she would not be finishing her testimony today. She basically said that this was something that she had to travel around with the security, and I have it right here. Security team would not allow her to be around Atlanta without that team. So that was pretty interesting in the case there from yesterday. He mentioned something, and he said he was very sad. He had only seen Willis 13 times for less than 3 hours because of the security risk, is what he specified, because of how much hate and things of that nature she was actually getting. that was something very key in this case, and excuse me. And I expect that we are going to see a lot more information come out today. Now, just before we go here, again, just before we go, I want to talk about a story from the New York Times. What happens if Fani Willis is disqualified? That was something, and maybe here it comes into focus. I don't think it will, but that was something that I really wanted to I wanted to know. So I want to read this off to you guys. It's just the third paragraph here, and I'm just going to read that off to you guys. So if the judge, in this case, Judge Scott McAfee, were to rule that she is to be removed from this case, the case would then be assigned to another Georgia prosecutor who would have the ability to continue with the case exactly as it is, make major changes such as adding or dropping charges or defendants, or even to drop the case altogether. The decision to drop the case altogether would end the prosecution of Donald Trump, in this case, obviously, and his allies for their actions in Georgia after the 2020 election, when the former president sought to overturn his loss in the state. So something very key, something very interesting to note, that this case could totally be even flipped over. And as we're kind of still waiting, they have taken a break here to discuss what they call Rule 1.6 here. Give me a moment. They call it Rule 1.6, and that rule, and I have it pulled up on this side of me here. It's basically about confidentiality of information. So lawyer, or should I say attorney-client confidentiality, and then they're going to return for more testimony and then take a lunch break. But this is our coverage is currently wrapping up on this. It has been very interesting to watch this. If y'all want to see, this is what the feed looks like right now, coming from maybe here. That's what the feed looks like, by the way, guys. So you are not seeing anything crazy there. This is going to be when our coverage wraps up, because it's been a very fun time, guys. And I have to go eat. I have to do things. We will not return for the later testimonies later in the day, but you can catch those on YouTube. Just look up this very big case. I mean, I have some other news organizations playing right over here, and I mean, that's all we have been focused on. Any news organization has been focused on this right here. So it's been pretty crazy to see this all happen, but this is when our coverage comes to an end. Thank you so much for watching. If you're going to continue watching this somewhere else, you can go to the Associated Press's YouTube channel. They have a feed there, but also that's for an unbiased feed. That's for someone not commentating it like I kind of am right now. That's for someone not going over the key moments in this case and things of that nature. So the court will break, or has broken, and you can see that at the bottom of your screen there now, until 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you can catch that at 12 p.m. So here in about 39 minutes, I should say, you can catch them back as they're discussing confidentiality between attorney and client. I'm Jackson Mitchell with Brookland News, and thanks so much for watching our coverage of this incredible courtroom.